Hello, this is Susan Kelmer. In this video, I want to talk about 3 different ways to include page numbers in a document. So the first thing you need to do is determine what exactly it is the student needs so that you're preparing the document in a way that works for them. And that may sound like a slap in the face to universal design, but our students actually have some say in what they get. And if you need to create something slightly different for different students, there's really no reason not to. So I'm going to show you the 3 ways that I use to create page numbers. And so one of them is by using the header and footer tool, which is under your insert menu. The other is to create inline page numbers, but have page breaks, hard page breaks between pages. And then the third way is to have inline page numbers with no page breaks. And that last version is good for students who don't need to know that a page breaks, they just need to know when the next page is. Or if you're creating, your final output is going to be an HTML document, page breaks don't work in HTML, right? So it's just one long document, but people need to know as they're reading, oh, I'm on page 12 or I'm on page 58, whatever it is. So the first way, and this would be for sighted students who want to see that information and want to hear it as well, but we want it to have the look of the original book. And I'm going to remind you what this file looks like. So our original PDF file looks like this. The page numbers are here, the bottom, and then at the top. So the bottom on the first page, at the top on all the others. We've already done some editing on this file as well, because this is our 4th video in this series on editing Microsoft Word documents. So we know that we're creating a file that looks generally like the original in this case. So in this file, I'm going to create page numbers in the header and footer section. The first thing I want to do is to look, first of all, where are the page numbers? So there they are there. And what number do they start on? If I'm not sure, I can always look again at my original PDF and go, oh, the first page is actually number 3. So that's good to know. We're going to need to format that properly in our Word document. So up here at the top, I've got my chapter heading, my first heading, level 2, etc. We have our nice little outline built here. We've done some editing on this document already, doing numbers, automated numbers and bullets. So we're ready to do the page numbering. So to do these in the header and footer, you're going to go to your Insert tab. So we're normally in our Home tab. This is the Insert tab. And over here towards the right is the page numbering tool. So I'm going to click that to get to my list of possible things I can do. And so one thing is I want page numbers always to be at the top, regardless of what the original document has. I want page numbers at the top of a document. This alerts the student before they read the page what page they're on. Okay, so that's much more important than making it visually like the book where it might be at the bottom. So top of page, and then I always place mine on the left. I'm very low key about this. I just want it done. It's very casual, but I do want to have the information there. So I choose top of page, left, plain number. I'm going to type the word page in here, and you may feel that this is kind of redundant, but actually this needs to be in there. So you're going to type the word page. If a student were listening via text to speech, for example, if we get to the bottom of the text on a page and then just say 1 or 58, it would make no sense to the student. So prefacing it with the word page tells them, oh yes, that was just the page break. Okay. Now we do know that this is not page 1 of the document, actually is page 3. So we need to adjust this as well. So while you're still in your header and footer tab, look for the page numbering drop down. Sometimes this is actually on the right. I've noticed in different versions of Word, it's in different places. And I'm using, I believe, Office 365 for this demonstration. So it is on the left rather than being on the right. So page numbering, when I click that down arrow, brings up that same little menu, but you notice on here there's one that says Format Page Numbers, and that's the one you want. So to bring up a dialog box, and here's where you can choose the numbering style. So if you're doing front matter, you can see there's a numbering style for those tiny Roman numerals. You can also put extra characters in there. There's a lot you can do with this. So there's some choices here. I'm obviously going to select 1, 2, 3. Then down at the bottom, want to tell it what page to start at. And I'm going to say 3 because it's not 1, it's 3. Click OK. Now I have the page numbering correct. If I scroll down, I'm going to see that where the paper breaks, there's page 4, where the paper breaks, page 5, etc. Now we're not done yet, but we need to get out of this editing mode to be able to get in and put page breaks in, which are going to make these numbers completely accurate. So I can either close my header and footer using the X on that insert bar, or I can just double click in the text of my document. It takes me right back out. So our actual page break is here. This is where the page break should be. We can see there's page 3, which is the first page of this document, and then there's page 4. So this is the break between the first page and the second page. However, the paper break is here, and that's not correct. So we need to put in a hard page break here. So I do this quickly by selecting this text because I want it to disappear, and I want to put in a page break instead. So when you select, whatever you type or do after that replaces what's there. So this is a shortcut. I don't have to delete this first in order to put in that page break. I select it. I use my keyboard Control. Oops. Helps if I push the right keys. Control, Enter. And it put the page break in there, and now the page numbering is where it should be within the text of the document. If I'm not sure, or I want to double check, I can go back here and I can see that yes, I'm in the right place and that page break is there. So I'm going to go through the rest of the document looking for those page numbers and page breaks. Select, Control, Enter. Select, Control, Enter. So this is pretty quick. It's not a very long document, but even if it was, you would get through it pretty quickly. So that's our first method of creating page numbers and page breaks. So our next document, and it's the same file. So our next document, let's say we're doing this for a student who's blind. If they're using a screen reader, it won't read the headers and footers unless they tell it to, and that gets to be a problem if they're looking for certain things. So we want to include a page number and a page break, but we're going to do it inline in the document. So this is a different method. You won't be using the header and footer function up here in the insert toolbar. This is manual. So what I want to do first is to type in whatever page number this page is. And in this case, I do preface it with page and I do surround it in brackets. Now, because of where I typed it, it became a heading level 1. I just switched that back to normal. You don't want that to be a heading level 1. So I've got my page 3 in here, and I'm going to scroll down and find, here's our break. Here's our actual break in pages. So Control Enter, bracket page 4, close bracket, and there is our page 4. I'm going to go down here and do page 5. So select, Control Enter, bracket, page 5. And I would go and do this through the whole document. Now you can create a macro, and I do talk about macros in another video coming up, that would put in part of this text for me, and all I'd have to do is put in the number. So you'll see that when I talk about macros in a later video. So I can continue to go through this document. And if for some reason the text was too long to fit on the page and it went to the next page automatically, which messes up your page numbers, you sometimes have to make some adjustments. And that includes reducing the size of the font. So you can reduce the font and give yourself more room. And you can do that manually by typing in a number here, or you can use the reducing character or the increasing character if you needed something bigger. So that is a way to make sure all of that text actually fits on the page that it belongs on. That isn't a problem in this file, but it does show up in other files. Remember, if it's a blind student using a screen reader, they're not looking at it. They're not looking at it with their eyes. So the font can be really small. It wouldn't matter as long as it reads properly using the screen reader. And that's what you're looking for, is that, you know, that ability to keep that content on one page. So that's the second way. So the third way, I'm going to pop up another clean document. So now we're into a document. Let's say our eventual output for this document is going to be HTML or straight text Braille, or a BRF file, a Braille ready file. So we don't need hard page breaks in a file that's going to be an HTML file because it isn't recognized as HTML code. And of course, in a Braille document, it doesn't need to break at that page either. The page breaks show up in the document because of what we do on our end as far as editing, but it won't actually stop printing at that piece of paper. Braille is about a 6:1, which means one page of text can print up to 6 pages of Braille, and you'd have a lot of wasted space if you put in hard page breaks. So in this case, we're going to do an inline page number with no page breaks. So this starts like the last method. So bracket, page, the number, end bracket. Change that from a heading 1 to normal text. And now we're going to go find that where that break is. And here is the break. It's right here. So I'm not going to do Control Enter this time to break the page. I don't want to do that. I'm going to type in my bracket, page 4, bracket, and I can't type. So now we've created the page number where the page break would be, so the student knows that they've changed pages, but I don't actually have a hard page break in here. So this just continues to run linearly through the document. And this is a manual process. Again, you can create a macro to shortcut some of it for yourself. And we will cover macros in a later document. And so this is the way I'm going to create these page breaks that aren't page breaks and include the page numbering. And again, the page numbering is going at the top of that particular page, even though it doesn't look like a particular page, it is. So this is how we do 3 kinds of page breaks and page numbering. So your first method, pull that document up. Your first method is to put it into the header and footer using your insert page numbering tool. That's your first method. Your second method is inline page numbering with hard page breaks. Okay, so we know there's a hard page break. We can actually see that there's a gap there. If you're not sure whether you actually got the page break in there, you can turn on this little tool up on the menu that looks like a backwards paragraph, and it will show you that you do indeed have a page break in there. So that's your second method. They're inline page numbers, so they're in line with the text, but no hard page break. Your third method, the second method was with a hard page break. The third method is inline page numbering with no hard break. So if I turn on my little backwards paragraph tool, I can see there is no page break anywhere in here, but we do note that there's a page. There's a page change. So this is how the student knows, oh, we're now on page 6. Okay? So this concludes this video about 3 ways to create page numbering.